Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Trovo Titans Smashing Beta, where we'll be having a 24-hour stream. Well, not just us. 8 hours here on Europe, then 8 hours in LATAM, and to finish it off, 8 hours in North America. I'm Tolsma, with me is RJ, and we're going to take you through the Europe part of things. And I think we're going to have a blast, aren't we?
Oh, it's going to be delightful. It's going to be something to smash, really. This beta, so many exciting opportunities, and so much up for grabs. I'm really excited, and all the interesting games as well that we're going to see today. There's just going to be a ton of spectacle, a ton of pleasure for people viewing at home.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of games today, at least on the Europe section already, with quite a lot of money to give away as well. There's going to be a lot of people quite happy to make some money. We'll also have a special event at the end. Of course, we've highlighted to it a little bit earlier in the year, but let's take a look at that schedule as well. Of course, RJ, we will be starting with a beautiful game named Clash Royale, followed by League of Legends, Brawl Stars, PUBG Mobile, CSGO, and Call of Duty Mobile. But, as said before, we do have that special event to see who will be the big victor of this year in Trovo Titans.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one, and there it is. Look at that, a top 50 Titans participant, well, tournament in Fall Guys. Very interesting. Have you played it before?
Oh, yes. And I've been very frustrated, to say the least.
Yep.
So I'm really curious who will be either frustrated or will be very happy if they do take the main prize at the end. Of course, a lot of players have collected Trovo Titan points throughout the year, and the top 50 of those will have an invite to participate in those Titan Points Grand Final. And of course, a Grand Final is nothing without a decent amount of money.
Oh, most certainly so. There's a lot of money up for grabs, and deservedly so. Even money for every participant, you know. It's just so much up for grabs, and it's amazing that I think, well, Trovo is giving that opportunity as well to everyone that's participating. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I think that it's going to be a beautiful finisher after just a varied selection of also fantastic games.
So 7 games in total, with 8 hours of a show. That's going to be quite a hefty thing to go through, but of course, we're not just by ourselves. No. We have some other people to help us out throughout the journey. RJ, just to ask, what game are you most hyped about?
Well, you're going to call me a bit of a cliche, but obviously CSGO. What would you expect, right? CSGO, it's just, you know, the best game out there. That's the one that I learned. That's the one that I've always enjoyed. So I'm just going to be just that typical guy and just going to go for CSGO.
Well, luckily, as I said, we're not alone. We do have some people helping us out, and that will be Counterfeit and Rook for the first game, Clash Royale. So we're going to take them into this show as well and have a little bit of a chitty chat with them. And of course, there are the beautiful faces. A little bit of green behind you in the full team of the Trovo Titans. Counterfeit, how are you doing today?
Did I hear some disrespect being thrown towards our wonderful first game? The best game around, Clash Royale?
It was RJ. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
I mean, I'm sorry, Counterfeit, but you know me, right? I know what I like, and look, Clash Royale, maybe a deserved second spot, no?
Oh, you're digging yourself in deeper there. Oh, Rook, you deal with him. You deal with him.
I mean, like in CS, it's a bit of a boomer mentality at the current moment. I'm going to be honest with you, buddy. You know, get with the times. It's all about mobile games.
Oh, the mobile game madness, of course, is something about. But you've had a great tournament with the Clash Royale so far. So let's take a look at the highlights of past year.
So far, so both of them fighting harshly through the competition, both of them with only 2 losses so far. This is going to be a big match here as the bandit hits on the right hand side. We've got the freeze and a big hit on the left.
Oh, that's it. That has to be it. Look at that. The balloon comes on through and just takes him down. Zoni was looking strong, was looking in control. By means it comes out just a second early and almost, in fact, it will just take down the tower and win the round.
That was so brutal.
Keep themselves ahead now with double packers. That is so scary. That little bit of damage might become a torrent away. A dead tower in a split second. And Cliff, I think that cry is pretty accurate.
The tornado, but it's not going to make the difference. There goes the tower. Kamikaze is undefeated and champion.
Good video. Very good. I do hope the Blue King loses in this next one, though.
Well, good video indeed, and a very good casting. Rook, how hyped are you for this grand finale?
I'm really excited in particular because we got Kamikaze coming back, who won at the last tournament and has frankly been on a tear in general. I've been really impressed with their play, and I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Okay, that's crystal clear. But do you maybe expect some sort of upset, though? Is there a chance for that?
There really is. So the last time we kind of obviously were together and had some Clash Royale on the screen, Kamikaze didn't drop a single game. Now, already in the qualifiers, they've dropped the game, and with the level of competition, I mean, El Nino in particular is very strong in their first matchup, and both Addy and Inthrill have been showing some fantastic play in those qualifiers. So I'm certainly looking towards them and going, well, there's a real chance here, but I think Kamikaze's definitely the one coming in as that, big favorite.
All right, Counterfeit, do you also agree that Kamikaze will be the favorite, or do you see a slight underdog story to come in as well?
I mean, it's very hard. As much as we say, it's a huge thing that Kamikaze actually has dropped a, even part of a series because, they went through the entirety of the previous event without dropping a single game at all. So I have to wonder if perhaps there's a little bit of Kamikaze slipping slightly, because when you're at the very, very top, the only way is down.
Well, that might be true, but we're going to leave you to it and have you enjoy if Kamikaze can win or if he might be overtaken soon. Have a lot of fun, guys.
Alright, thank you guys so much. So, we're looking very much forward to seeing this bracket coming through here. We've got our 2 semi-finals here today. Hopefully, we'll get to see Kamikaze maybe even drop another game. Maybe even a series. What a world that would be, Rook.
Yeah, it'd be super exciting. I love watching Kamikaze play, and I mean, to see them get taken down a peg would be fantastic as well, because they just have been on such a tear. It'd be also interesting to see what kind of units we get. Obviously, we did have that big balance patch, which, I mean, frankly, had a massive nerf to Mother Witch, and I think that's potentially one of the biggest changes possible, because it was such a polarizing card, it really changed a lot of matchups, and then now you don't even need to use the Fireball to take it down.
Yeah, and I do wonder if that might have some sort of contributing factor to why Kamikaze actually did drop a game, because sometimes that can be the difference maker, when you've got a really established player who knows exactly what they're doing, that sometimes their instincts can work a little against them, in that they're so, attuned to a previous patch, it can be hard for them to shift across to this new meta, this new environment, and play fully optimally.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's something that kind of proves that you're able to stand the test of the time, and that is the question for Kamikaze right now. Dominance the first time we saw them, but, I mean, that can easily peter out. So I'm really interested to see what El Nino is going to be able to do, whether Kamikaze will be able to weather the storm. Now, I mean, El Nino obviously also made it through that qualifier one, and there was a very stacked roster to be able to deal with. We had, obviously, the return of Tankeray in that one, who got taken down, and also some impressive performances versus MPT Legend, who had been having a fantastic performance and actually knocked out Addy, who is obviously here today.
Alright, I think we do have our first game pretty much ready to go, so we'll see how well of our players have been adapting to this new and scary environment where spawners aren't absolutely everywhere. And Mother Witches, as you said, aren't the go-to for absolutely everybody. Get things started in a second. Ice Wizard in particular, one which I think we're both looking out for to see how that impacts with its now on-deployment damage.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think Ice Wizard is a very defensive unit, so I actually like the fact that it's got the on-deploy damage, which means it can kind of add more. Obviously, the problem being is that you're not really able to, that you're not able to kind of put it in that close proximity, otherwise it could easily get taken down, but at least it can deal with things like skeletons relatively easy if you need to be able to counteract that.
Alright, let's kind of have a quick look at our format before we get things started officially here today, and see what we've got for us. Of course, we'll be looking for our players to be playing in best of threes the entire way through. And as we can see, players can be playing, they're playing in best of 5 here, and they can change their decks anytime they like. So there's no bans, there's no restrictions on how flexible our players can play.
It's interesting. Obviously, kind of bans, no bans mean that we are going to get those full power decks, and that's very exciting to see. I'm interested whether people are going to be going over to the Mother Witch or whether we'll see anything like that. I'm excited to potentially see some more Rascals girls because, I think they're Rascals because I think they've been absolutely fantastic. Rascals girls got that buff recently and things looking good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly it's not something we saw the Rascals very often before, but I think you're right. It could definitely slip under the radar as well. You know, because we got that flexibility there, I wonder if we do see, you know, with Execution getting a little bit of HP coming into the latest patch as well. I know that you're a little bit borderline on how effective the Executioner can be.
Yeah, I mean, it's still strong at kind of mopping up those mob units to kind of spam, and it still does do a decent amount of damage, but when I saw it played, the reality didn't really work out. It is that little bit tankier, and that does make a big difference kind of in how much it can deal with, especially since you see a lot of damage get pumped out by those smaller units generally who are in big clumps, so it does make it survive a lot more. But at the end of the day, it kind of struggles to deal with, I think, some of the heavier hitters in the format.
Alright, let's move on then and see if our friends have got themselves anything different. Of course, our prize pool for today and for every single one of our tournaments today will be 5,000 euros on the line. So we have our top 4 players playing here in this upcoming event. So you can see that they guaranteed themselves at least 400 euros. If they win the series, they double their money, and if they win in the finals, they more than double their money again.
Yeah, pretty darn solid, honestly. Picking up that 1.8k euros would be absolutely fantastic for absolutely any of these players. And I mean, you know, again, shows just how important this is going to be. Obviously, celebrating the smashing beta. And honestly, that's the most exciting thing for me, because Trovo just keeps on going up and up.
Alright, let's go and take a quick look at our bracket. So this is going to represent our 2 qualifiers that came through, so that's why you'll see some of the same names on both sides of the field there. So you see, of course, Kamikaze, if you look down the bottom left, against Matthew, actually did drop that game. But Matthew didn't come back from the other side of the bracket, so as you can see, Matthew actually getting knocked out by Inthrill, who's going up against Addy in our second semi-final. So there's certainly a lot to look for here. Kamikaze against El Nino, as you said, our first upcoming match. Notable as well, Kamikaze. So we're back in a second with our beautiful faces before we come back in. Now, Rook, I know that you've been doing some other Clash Royale events recently, up in the New, for example. You know, what have you seen really working well?
Well, I've been seeing people doing fantastic plays with things like Mortar and playing around that. It's about kind of keeping up that tempo, obviously, with that deck. You make massive elixir trades, and if they don't deal with the Mortar, the thing is it can take over the entire game. It just manages to throw out bomb after bomb after bomb and basically make you win any trade on the rest of the map. And if it gets to hit the tower, hey, that's extra damage, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think if we're going to have cards that are very much a player type, Mortar is very much mine. That it's a card that demands an answer. But we waste no more time because I believe El Nino versus Kamikaze 13, Serbia versus Montenegro will be our first semi-final come up in just a few moments, and we'll get to see if
to kick things off for Kamikaze, and that's a big investment, and I actually love this Musketeer response from El Nino. Gets a lot of damage down, unless something else is in the backside, it's going to be very difficult to shut that down. The Night Witch, again, another unit that has been fantastic in pumping out big threats and, tanking up those shots from the Musketeer where it can.
That they are going in straight away. I mean, they're getting a ton of damage in, and this air power combined with the ground power, the lightning coming in as well. Oh my gosh, El Nino gets no damage back in trade whatsoever. They are being run over.
They absolutely are. That was a really good early push from Kamikaze. Obviously, the Golem is absolutely terrifying. It puts so much pressure on, but the Royal Hogs straight back. You know there's got to be a response from this from Kamikaze, otherwise things could get a little difficult. Good usage of the Tornado there, activates the King Tower, and puts them in a very solid position. I'm really loving the play from Kamikaze so far, but an El Nino kind of finding out why that cannon cart, while obviously can be fantastic if you get it over the other side of the bridge, can also be a little bit difficult to use effectively, because if it lands on your side, sometimes it's just pretty useless. Now, the Mortar coming out, as I said before, El Nino looking to keep up the tempo, but they are very behind, so getting this damage in early is at least a good look.
Yeah, you can see Mortar's not going to be amazing against the Golem. We really need massive single target damage. As a Bomber comes in as well. Nice answer to the Mortar there. So gets that without being traded. As you can see, the Golem is pretty much shrugging off those cannon cart shots. It's going to walk right past it. El Nino definitely doesn't have the right tools to be able to react to this deck at all. So, while they've got some good damage in on the left-hand tower in return, we've got these little Golem friends hanging around. And now El Nino has to deal...
Yep. With the extra units coming on in. I think the big question for El Nino is you're looking at this and going, well, how do I trade back? And I think Royal Hogs are absolutely it, but with a great Tornado and those bomb skeletons, you're going to be able to clean that up relatively quickly. I think looking at next game, El Nino needs to be thinking, I need to be able to deal with some of those bigger units, and an Inferno Tower or an Inferno Dragon might be on the cards. Some good trades here, but they only have 20 seconds to take this tower. It's half health, so it's very possible, but it's going to be easier said than done for sure.
A decent amount of damage is coming back through from Nino on the left-hand tower. Absolutely, they need to get in, but the lining has been such a great answer from Kamikaze. Even if it can't kill the cannon cart immediately, it can force it to stay on El Nino's side of the field, and when that happens, it's a very swift first game over.
Absolutely is, and again, it kind of highlights you need to be playing with these big units to lead on in if you're playing that kind of more mid-rangey deck, and unfortunately, when you don't have the answers, you kind of see exactly what happens to El Nino. I mean, we've seen it not just with Golems, with Elixir Golems as well, obviously very kind of snowbally deck, but also things like the balloons. If you don't have the right answer, things can end very, very quickly, and you need to give it the respect that it really deserves. And obviously, with great backup, well, that's why Kamikaze was able to take that round pretty easily.
Yeah, that's well, you know, it speaks to how confident Kamikaze is that they can blind be throwing out Golems into what El Nino is bringing out, and, you know, because that's a win or lose game kind of move to make immediately, especially this far into the bracket. You know, you could just drop the game instantly if your opponent has the right answer.
Yeah, honestly, investing 8 Elixir to do essentially nothing, at least until it reaches the tower, because obviously it doesn't actually hit other units, is a scary ploy, but hey, if it works out, you look like an absolute champ like Kamikaze did, and obviously take control of the round. And the fact as well that they were the ones to really start off and instigate meant that El Nino kind of looked at it and went, well, okay, I'm on the back foot, what do I do now? Now, actually, I think it would have been really interesting to see if they'd gone for the other tower instead, looked for a trade, and maybe put a couple of units down to deal with it. But the problem is, of course, that El Nino didn't have responses to things like the Golem, to those high health units that can be really problematic.
Alright guys, let's get into game number 2. Kamikaze gonna be coming in again with the Golem. They just don't care. Whatever El Nino is putting out, they say it doesn't matter, and El Nino is already starting to feel the pressure.
Please say you've adapted El Nino, have something ready, and I think Tesla Tower at least buys you that good bit of time, but that Dark Knight is having not such a great time because the bats are eating away at it. Fantastic play early on to try and bring in those extra things, but unfortunately for them, the storm comes in. Kamikaze using that big spell to clear out a lot, and I mean, it's a heavy elixir investment, but hey, it's paying dividends.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good follow-up. I think Kamikaze's got the timing down perfectly. Even this early on, before we've hit double elixir or anything, there's still enough time to be able to buy it. I think this is just a meta reaction from Kamikaze here in our best of 5 first semi-finals. It's just saying that I know you don't have the correct tools, even with the Tesla coming in. You know, normally it's resistant to getting hit by spells, but as soon as it's up, it's no longer invulnerable, and the lightning, like everything else, clears the way for the Golem.
Really well played by Kamikaze. Royal delivery coming on here, and that's fantastic because obviously otherwise that charge from the Knight would have been absolutely huge. Good log here. Won't hit the tower, but at least it gets rid of that difficult unit to deal with. And, well, speaking of difficult to deal with, here's that Golem again. And keep in mind as well that Kamikaze still has 3 cards they haven't shown. That's the flexibility of this guy, and he's absolutely ready to kind of play that slower style and get the big win.
So Night Witch is going to provide a little bit more bodies in the air. The bats will actually do a decent job as the lightning is thrown down. Now, that is a negative elixir trade for El Nino, but it doesn't matter because they have their eyes on one thing only, and that's smashing their way through. That first tower is down, and this time we're not seeing the hogs from El Nino. We're not seeing nearly any tower damage back. The miner is fine, but as it gets pulled into the King Tower again, it's not getting enough done.
I really like this deck from Kamikaze. As I said before, it's very heavy on the Elixir. I'm not so sure about the Storm. I would personally rather, you know, something like the Fireball. But hey, it's working out for them. They have a whole suite, a whole plethora of tools that are able to kind of deal with pretty much anything that's being thrown at it. And with backup like, you know, the Skeletal Dragons, you've got a lot of damage you can dish out pretty quick.
As we saw there, Kamikaze losing out their first game for a long time in the game just before this against Matthew. So we know that this particular god can bleed, but what we are also finding here is that just losing a game is not enough to make Kamikaze anything but supremely terrifying to play against.
Yeah, aggression with that Golem. Set them ahead early, and El Nino really couldn't keep the pace. They're playing that more tempo-heavy deck, less than the Mortar, which felt supremely useless in that matchup. But, I mean, kind of just, honestly, playing very solidly around, I mean, any kind of response, because it just felt like, even with the Tesla Tower, you're constantly getting hit by spells, and unfortunately, just couldn't keep up the pace.
Yeah, and, you know, I think at the moment for Kamikaze, you know, this is being a best of 5, so they're still going to win one more time if they're going to make it through to the finals. Again, double up their money at very least. But I think, you know, they're just kind of going all in again and again against El Nino. And coming into Game 3, this is going to force El Nino to be playing a deck that can beat the Golem, which gives an amazing opportunity for Kamikaze just to switch up deck types entirely and say, I know you have to play against a deck that maybe I don't even play.
Yeah, it is the real problem here, because, I mean, it's like, I know that you know that I'm thinking that you're thinking this is the kind of deck I'm going to play, so I'm going to play something different. It's like when you're doing rock, paper, scissors, and it absolutely can be sometimes. Obviously, matchup makes a big difference. The last finals I got to cast was basically decided by the matchups, and unfortunately, if you're in that wrong one, it can go oh so wrong. And I think that obviously we saw El Nino expect Kamikaze to change, and that was kind of their downfall. They didn't have the Inferno Tower, and instantly the cry at the start of that game kind of told me, oh, El Nino does not have a response to this.
Well, we see the balloon over on the far side of the screen. I'd love to see something like that from El Nino, which is saying, you know, you've got a Golem, I've got a cheap unit that can just fly right over its head. But it looks like ground control is the name here. So Kamikaze switching things up for game number 3, but it looks like El Nino did not get baited in to trying to go after a anti-Golem deck. And the defense is pretty solid. Mega Minion is going to get taken out on the way in. Cannon didn't do anything at all. And oh, who is this but a big hitter of El Nino's own?
That would have been a good way to deal with the Golem, honestly, but it is a bit of an expensive response. I'm liking the pressure so far that Nino's deck can put out. It's a very kind of, you know, it's a very slow but steady deck when you have the P.E.K.K.A. involved, but the rest of the deck is pretty on pace and getting aggressive. Now, unfortunately, the cage is going to drag over the P.E.K.K.A., but they'll be able to get onto that tower sooner than you think if there's no response from Kamikaze.
Yeah, unfortunately, as we've seen again and again, the problem for P.E.K.K.A. is it's just so incredibly easy to drag them around the place once they get onto the opposing side of the field. As the battering ram actually does make it in, so El Nino is in the lead. Of course, the battering ram getting a recent buff to its on-charge damage, so I like that Nino has got the opportunity to play responsive here, though apparently they don't have the tools to deal with the deployed cannon cart.
That's the problem, right, is I was kind of looking at this for El Nino, and I was like, oh, the battering ram is great, sets them ahead, but they didn't have the elixir, they didn't have the response for the cannon cart, and you need to make sure that cannon cart doesn't die on your side of the field in range of the tower, because if it does, it will get a huge amount of damage, unless you have something in front to kind of soak that up, and even then, you don't really want to have to be in that position. Now, the P.E.K.K.A. moves forward, obviously, from El Nino, but basically little avail. Those Sparkies absolutely ruin its deck.
Yeah, well, the Bandit did get a charge in on the far side, so that's something, as the cannon, exactly as you said, will be stopped on the bridge, just out of range of tower, I believe. Iwit's coming from behind will help minimize the damage. Notable as well, coming into the most latest patch, the Goblin Cage getting a fairly substantial nerf to its HP pool, so spells like the poison here are going to be much more noticeably affected.
Yeah, I'm liking the fact that we're seeing these come out relatively early here from El Nino, and I'm loving the kind of play, but in the back pocket is the graveyard for Kamikaze.
This is all in for Kamikaze. They do not mess around. The tower is down. But P.E.K.K.A. is on the far side, gonna get zapped away for a second. Does manage to get a hit or two in. Actually gonna be very close to trading the tower back.
Yeah, actually can get the kill here if they have another spell, but
Oh, no!
I don't think they do, and you can see it there. If the okay, it gets it in time. I wasn't sure. I didn't think El Nino quite had the tick damage to finish that one off, but as they do, I mean, they're still on the behind. Look at that. 1.6k-ish on the left-hand tower for El Nino. That could be a real problem. And it's interesting that we're seeing the mismatch here, where they take it on the opposite sides. Normally you see a lot of pressure on one side, but I like that El Nino's kind of looked at this one. Okay, I needed to shift things up. I needed to attack on two fronts because Kamikaze was all inning on that left side.
Yeah, I mean, El Nino, as you said, their tower on the left-hand side, very low health. But all the resources being put in here by by Kamikaze towards El Nino. There is the graveyard, though. I think it was a big distraction technique. Peke is not going to do well against this lineup here. The graveyard is tearing into the tower. The fireball shows that inevitability there for Kamikaze. I mean, as much as they would love to be able to go for a 3-crown here, eventually, Pekka, on its own side of the field, is going to deal pretty well with a cannon cart.
Yeah, and there come those Sappies as well to get some extra damage and finish off that Pekka with relative ease. Minion trading into Mega Minions here, but a good volley actually keeps the pressure up and means it's not all too problematic. So good Elixir trades and, well, baiting out a lot of utility into the graveyard again on that left-hand side is a big difference maker, and I think that is going to be the game and the set going the way of Kamikaze. Honestly, so well played by Kamikaze, not only in the kind of micro, but changing up those decks, playing something entirely different, and honestly being ready for basically whatever's getting thrown.
I like to, in particular, that we saw that that graveyard play is such a great way to punish players. If you ever can kind of get them off balance, then the graveyard can be such a great finisher.
It can indeed. Honestly, always keep an eye out for that one on back pocket, and with the way Kamikaze was playing, keeping those cards till the very end, having something in the back pocket, the graveyard is always something great to have there, because you can play a kind of more, you can play a more control-y deck and then have the graveyard in that back pocket. But obviously, we're going to go look at that bracket now. You can see that there is a 3-0 for Kamikaze to kick things off. An impressive performance, and again, kind of what we expect from this guy.
Yeah, and as you can see at the bottom there, of course, our players are looking to be our €1,800 winner. But we're not done yet with even establishing our finals. So Kamikaze certainly back to form with that 3-0. But Addy and Inthrill going to be up next from Romania and Poland respectively. Inthrill in particular making it through their qualifier completely undefeated. At least on paper, that's a better performance even than Kamikaze.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing the finals matchup and whoever has to take on Kamikaze. But here, I do very much kind of have a favorite in Inthrill with how they've been playing. The performance against Matthew hasn't lost at all. Been seeing really great things from them. And as good as Addy was, the fact that they didn't get through on that first qualifier and kind of like I've had to go to that second one, makes me have doubts. Now, I'd love to see Addy kind of wreck this fight, so kind of assuage those fears, but it might be easier said than done. Inthrill is a scary, scary opponent.
All right, let's get into our second semi-final then and see who is going to be going up against Kamikaze. So, Addy, on the top of your screen from Romania, headed through the qualifier 2. They went to game 3 a whole bunch of times, more often than not. But it seems like they've got a pretty aggressive game plan, bringing out the wall breakers straight away.
You know what? I'm loving it. I love the fact that both of these players are bringing the wall breakers, relatively similar, at least styles of decks, at least from what we can see so far. Goblin Drill comes on through and starts to put that pressure onto the left-hand tower as the Tesla, unfortunately, is completely kept at bay.
You can see here, Addy did take a loss to KGB in their quarterfinal, but for Inthrill, it's been all the way through. I guess there's always the argument to be made. Does it make you a better, give you better concentration, better focus to have taken those losses on the way up, to have adapted and still made it to the same point that someone who hasn't taken any losses has made in the tournament?
It's a big question. Obviously, you learn a lot from your losses, and I think Addy will likely be in that kind of position too. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what they bring here. And I mean, they've got an early advantage in terms of tower health, but it's kind of you have to have the right responses to things like the Goblin Drill, which they absolutely do. They have the Goblin Gang to try and deal with that one, and even, you know, things like the Valkyrie to make it a real problem as well. And you know what? I'm loving the fact that Addy is very happy to give these responses. Inferno Tower coming out from Inthril probably won't have to deal with too much that's kind of scary and big, though, this game.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the Inferno Tower. As you see, it's, you know, we would have loved to have seen this against the Golem before as a way to deal with those big, single, hard-to-kill units. Nice log to keep the wolves from the door. Addy, right now, is ahead of the play. To see Valkyrie, an excellent answer to the Goblin Drill there. Not only taking out the drill itself, but easily able to deal with the goblins immediately afterwards.
Absolutely. Poison, great coming on in here from Addy as well, doing double duty on both the tower and the Inferno Tower. So good stuff here to kind of keep up that pressure, and I'm liking that they're not giving Inthril any chance to breathe here. Wall breakers kind of to cycle on through. Interested to see what the last card for Inthril is here, because it could be a big game changer if it's, you know, something like the Graveyard. It'd be a bit out of place, but hey, if it works, it works.
Alright, so yeah, both players can be bringing the defensive structures here. So Tesla for Addy, and of course the Inferno Tower we saw before from Inthril. More pressure being put on though, as a good reaction from Inthril stops them from taking more damage. With the way things are right now, it's really up in the air. We've got solid play coming through here as Inthril. This could be the game where they take their first loss of the competition.
That log is really important because I think Addy kind of noticed that those wall breakers were pretty scary and you needed to be ready for them. Really well plated to kind of keep that up. And a fireball in the back pocket. I think that's good. It means obviously that you have that big spell to try and deal with some of those units. And I think there's some very important ones to be able to take down. For example, that Valkyrie, which can really lead a charge. But obviously, Inthril is going to need to keep up that pressure if they're going to win this one. And if they can get wall breakers to land, that's the big game changer.
So right now, Inthril is behind the left-hand tower. It does seem like we might well be going all the way to the end of overtime without too much damage being done either way. I think both players having a lot of defensive tools they can use to stop any additional damage from coming in means that damage from much earlier on might be decisive, but Inthril gets in with the guards. The wall breakers hit as well, and he's in major trouble.
Now, this is what I really like. Again, Inthril playing the different sides of the map, and that makes a big difference here. But I think this poison might actually bring them to about even Stevens in terms of damage, maybe a little bit in favor of one player or the other, but not by much. So just a couple of mistakes here could be big, but that's some damage again onto the tower, keeping that pressure up. And because that log doesn't also hit tower, Addy might fall behind, especially because there's a fireball in the back pocket of Inthril here.
I think this is working so well for Inthril having the Inferno Tower there. You know, even when in other circumstances it being distracted would be enough to make a difference here. I would note as well, you know, we've got the Goblin Drill, the Fireball to follow up as well, down to 372. Immediately the Miner's going to be answered, the Poison's ticking through again, but I don't know, the Bomber coming in as well. I don't think Andy can land any further damage apart from that Poison.
They can't indeed. 20 HP. Inthrill's like, I just need that lick of damage. Pressure coming in from the Miner with the log as well. This is going to get relatively low, both towers, but it's who's going to be able to cycle through first. The Goblin Drill comes in, deals that entry damage, and Inthril picks up that first game in an absolute nail-biting first one.
Yeah, that was extremely close. Oh my gosh. I do think that it was just a difference maker there of having that somewhat undeniable damage. Even if it was a small amount of damage from the drill, you know, able to bypass the towers, I think made all the difference there. I'd love to see, you know, Addy trying to bring in something like that for themselves as well, because the Inferno Tower felt like it was just slightly too good of an answer to everything that we're putting out.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, but the big difference maker for me is the fact that those wall breakers got through as many times as they did. You kind of saw that Inthril moved from a strategy of kind of, you know, all in on one tower to playing split, and Addy kind of didn't quite get their units in the right place and made it a little difficult. So going into this next one, I want to see better responses to kind of cross lane plays, because if Addy can't do that, they're going to get overwhelmed.
Alright, so Inthril maintains their undefeated streak here in our best of 5 semi-finals. Hey look, it's more towers coming in, but again, Inthril has got the drill, so we'll be able to get, I think maybe, no, not quite able to get the damage in. The Valkyrie has been working overtime to get a positive, get the same elixir trade back and stop the damage from landing.
Valkyrie is such a house of a card, does so much work, is relatively tanky as well. Obviously, will get cleared up by Inthril with their own, and now the bowler, something coming out here. A bit of a surprise to see this one, and a bit of a surprise to see people bringing Fire Spirits, even with how they currently are. They got nerfed a bit, their jump range is kind of meh, they don't really do too much, but they do still cycle, and that's something to keep in mind, is you want to cycle through to those big spells like the Graveyard, as we can see.
I mean, certainly it makes a pretty good answer if you can, you know, rather than necessarily chasing after towers. We've got a pretty solid push in, but the bomb tower has been doing great work. The Valkyrie again will land immediately to deal with all those goblins. There's a little bit of damage done, but right now Inthril is officially behind.
Inthril not only officially behind, but has given their entire hand here and shown it away. I really like as well that Addy moved over to a Graveyard here because Inthril was not prepared for something like that. Look at this deck. It has very few ways to deal with it other than the Valkyrie. And I think if Inthril commits that now, they're going to find themselves a really difficult position, which is great for Addy because obviously if you can't commit that Valkyrie in another position, you're just going to kind of get overwhelmed. And I think that's what Addy's really looking for here. Good Baby Dragon coming on in here, getting a lot of damage. Now keep an eye on whether this Graveyard comes on in now that that Valkyrie is down for Inthril.
I mean, this is exactly what we wanted to see from game number one. The ability to reach out and do some somewhat undeniable damage for Addy here. A punished player. Got the bowler again, so should be able to clear ground pretty well, though as a single target it's going to do amazingly against the tower here.
Yeah.
You see Valkyrie, much as it was doing for Addy, is clearing ground extremely well.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was a little bit late from Addy. You needed to be investing that Graveyard much, much earlier. Otherwise, Inthril is going to get up that Valkyrie again. And we're not going to be able to cycle back through. Now, obviously, we're kind of in double elixir. Things could change. And actually, this committal of the Graveyard is good here. They can get a massive amount of damage, actually.
I love that fireball on top of the Graveyard as well. You know, so often we are seeing the units coming back in to try and react. So you've got the fireball to clear them away and also knock them back for your skeletons. When these games are as close as they are, getting a couple of hits in is going to matter. We do see the bowler is not dealing with the drill anywhere near as well as the Valkyrie was, though. It's definitely a big question mark from this game.
Yeah, oh, that was difficult. The bowler went down almost instantaneously. Graveyard comes on in, wants to chip away and take that health advantage with double bomb towers as well in the middle. Addy really is focusing on this defense, and I love the fact that they changed over to bomb tower. They didn't bring anything different because this deals with the mobs that we're seeing come out from Inthril very well, while also being solid at dealing with things like the Valkyrie, because it still deals a decent amount of damage, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've seen bomb tower everywhere all the time. It's just such a great all-purpose defensive unit, or defensive billing. It's one of those ones that you kind of would expect it to be more, more generalized or more specialized towards dealing with the AoE, but it deals so well with the wall breakers as well, just by being a building at all, as the wall breakers will charge in right into the bomb tower, but the goblins get the work done. That goblin drill, MVP for Inthril.
Wow, I actually can't believe Inthril brought that back. Addy was looking so strong, in control of the game, but Inthril gets that one opening and does not let go. That's why they've been undefeated so far, and continue that still. Honestly, with the way Addy was playing, I really thought it was going to be it. But at the end of the day, Inthril does show their class.
I mean, and it's also going to be important, as we're coming up to game number 3 here. Inthril, if they're going to win this whole thing, if they're going to take down Kamikaze, which nobody else has done in this series, we would expect them to dominate in the semi-final stage if they're going to put up a solid showing in the finals.
Yeah, they absolutely have to, because obviously if you go into that other side, Kamikaze is a terrifying prospect to have to take down, and honestly, they showed their form again today. I was kind of coming on in and going, well, maybe Kamikaze doesn't adapt well. Maybe they don't have the kind of answers. Well, turns out they do, and Inthril seems to have them as well as we get on into our next game. And, I'm interested to see what kind of deck we see next, because it's mostly been kind of focusing on the ability to kind of put pressure on at range and not really caring about a front-loaded standard push where, you got your big, heavy units at the front and a lot at the back. Now, Mortar coming on in here, able to apply that pressure, but with the Tesla Tower as well, right on the very edge. I'm loving that response from Inthril.
Yeah, I think a little too aggressive on the placement there. I don't mind at all seeing a more defensive early Mortar, but, it was a bold choice being made. We have got a small push coming back in, but I can't imagine too much damage is going to end up being done here. So Addy going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. As at least we are going to see a bit of a change here. It's everyone's favorite, the Hog Rider coming in. Actually manages to get past, though the damage coming back from Addy is solid to make sure not too much health is taken away.
Really love the play from Influence so far. Positive elixirs trades up the wazoo, and frankly, playing around it really well. Making sure this cannon cart couldn't target the tower, and now is just up so much, got that little bit of extra damage on the left-hand side, and can keep the pressure going. Good usage of a building here to try and keep that pressure off, but the Earthquake actually deals with it relatively quick here. It does mean you're able to chip away somewhat. Now, left-hand push for Inthril here, I think, would be massive.
I'm really surprised this is the first time we're seeing the Earthquake coming in as well, because, you know, this has been such a building-dominated series that it could have done a lot of work in games 1 and 2. Addy fighting for their survival here in our second semi-final. It would be quite a thing if our remaining competitor could go back, reverse sweep the series, and then go on and challenge Kamikaze. There's a long way to go. There is the Earthquake coming in again. Addy gonna get a little chunk down. They can't deal super well with the Rider. They did. The damage just wasn't able to be stopped.
No, absolutely wasn't. I was surprised to see the Earthquake coming in on both sides. But hey, I mean, if you're dealing with those buildings, as you said, it's a great adaptation, and it can be fantastic. Especially if you're trading it into something like the Mortar. That if you just kill the Mortar, that is a positive elixir trade, and they were able to trade up so darn much. Now, starting to amass some of those units, you can see Hog Rider instantly goes in on the left-hand side, but is brought across by the Mortar. Really well played here, and good understanding from Addy to know that you've got to drag that Hog away.
Yeah, so both of our players bringing Earthquake as our final card. Tesla coming in a little bit more of an Earthquakeable position, but we're assuming no, it's not out of cycle quite yet, so damage will come back in from Addy. They still going to make up a lot of ground on the left-hand side, though, down to 1360, and I think it's about to get worse for them as well.
It is indeed. Going to chunk it up that little bit more, brings it down all the way to 800. Not exactly where you want to find yourselves, but this cannon cart pushing up the left-hand side, if Inthril doesn't respond to, could even the odds, because obviously, we're going to go to overtime.
So this time Mortal won't get taken out by that closely placed Tesla tower. I can see Inthril was waiting for that to happen. Good damage on the left-hand side. Yeah, very sneaky.
Yeah, massive amount of damage, and actually put them in a chance to win the game, but obviously it's only a matter of time before that left-hand tower gets taken down by Earthquake if you are Addy. You've got to be a little more pressuring about it. But unfortunately, you're playing this Mortar comp, which wants to be kind of that more mid-rangey kind of tempo style, and it might not be enough. Some good extra damage onto the tower, but still behind quite significantly.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like this from Addy. You know, they're splitting the damage across both towers when the left-hand tower is so close to dead already. If we get to the end of overtime, that will be it. They've got so much ground to make up with, and the log is doing a significant amount of damage to put Addy out here, combined with the Earthquake, and it's going to be...
There it is.
Another 3-0. Oh my gosh, we're talking about the Fire Spirit as being like, not so strong anymore, but it is barely strong enough to be able to get in and get that hit on the tower, even if it can be taken out by so many other units. A little bit of damage was there, so 2, 3, and 0 players going into our grand finals. Let's take a look at that bracket and see. So both of our players there doubling up on their money from their semi-finals. Inthril versus Kamikaze. This should be an absolute clash of the Titans.
That is exactly what I wanted to see. And, you know, so far these games, they have been smashing, just like we are smashing beta. I don't expect this to be any different, honestly. Inthril has been on a tear, has not dropped anything yet. Well, Kamikaze has the history, to be sure. While they did drop a game to Matthew, it's definitely an interesting one. And while, you know, obviously Clash Royale doesn't have transitive properties, you could see there for just a second that Matthew got taken down 2-0 by Inthril, which means, I mean, kind of, sort of, not really, that Inthril is actually the favorite coming in here by statistics and statistics alone.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, if we're always looking, you know, when you have such a dominant player like Kamikaze has been, you're always looking for the next big thing who's going to maybe, you know, stylistically match up well into them. I think maybe what we've seen from Kamikaze so far is maybe, if anything, a surplus of confidence. You know, they throw that golem straight away. They almost disrespected their opponent. I think against Intrill, that could really cost them big if they make the wrong decision, if they go too big in the first game.
Always got to be a little bit careful, and I think that's something to kind of note, is if you go for the golem here, I think it would be a little bit greedy, Kamikaze. Interested to see if they do still go for it, but investing 8 elixir early is kind of a big question, and I think of all players, Inthra will be able to punish that quite effectively here.
All right, so let's welcome to our grand finals. It's best of 5. Kamikaze, an absolute force of nature against the challenger in Thrill. Let's see if they've got what it takes. Do you have the ghost over on the right-hand side? A little mixing up things a little bit more. As Kamikaze looks like they're not going to be able to sneak through their bandit there, so currently, trade is going to go in the favor of our new challenger.
Yeah, fantastic start, honestly. Really well played by Inthral. And looks like we're seeing 2 very similar decks, honestly. Kind of going for that more bridge swam strategy. But as I say that, I see a unit I was not expecting to see in the P.E.K.K.A. And 7 elixir just invested.
Yeah, this is exactly what we saw from Kamikaze before. They don't care what you're going to play. I do think this is going to match up pretty well into the cannon cart. As well, the cannon cart will be able to bring themselves back to life. They will be able to deny. There's the lightning again. We saw from Kamikaze a little bit of a signature card for them in our first semi-finals.
Ooh, if this cannon cart gets onto tower, that could be big, but good usage of the bandit here actually means that it doesn't get within range and is dispatched very quickly. Extra trunk going to come out from this bandit, almost certainly, but good usage of another unit from Kamikaze in order to tank that one.
Alright, so far, so even. Mother Witch will be coming in. Does manage to get a hog off just before that. Though bear in mind, of course, Mother Witch is more vulnerable with a reduced HP pool, so she's very much more dealable with some of these spells.
I was really surprised to see that come out from Inthral there. That basically almost lost a Mother Witch straight off the bat. And that is not a positive elixir trade. A 3-unit bandit, sorry, a 3-cost bandit going in there, pretty much taking it out and showing just how scary these kind of trades can be. And that's why this bridge fan can work oh so well. The P.E.K.K.A. marches forward, but there is a lot in its path.
Yeah, and that log is going to finish off the job there, but all said and done, the Kamikaze still remains behind. Their grip on the very top of the competition does seem like it's slipping ever so slightly, especially if these cannon carts end up staying on their own side of the field. While they can deny a push in from the Thrill, they can't get any damage down of their own.
Yeah, good usage here of the Mother Witch, if you can give it support, but alone, it feels a little bit lackluster. It's not as tanky as it once was. It can't just sit there and pump out that damage. Now, a lot of units getting invested onto this right-hand side, but it was kind of an elaborate ruse, as the push from the bandit on the left is where all the damage was. Very front-loaded there.
Yeah, I love the bandit. It's such a good unit, but lightning is also pretty amazing in itself. Good damage being done, bringing us back to pretty much even. Though notable that Kamikaze's right-hand tower and Thrill's left are not comparable in terms of raw damage being done. As we get into overtime here, it does feel like this game is going to be decided by a big play one way or the other.
Yeah, really well played here. Magical Archer is going to clean up that Mother Witch pretty easily. You get one hit in, but, you know, Mother Witch, not exactly the most damaging of units here, as P.E.K.K.A. on the board very much is.
Yeah, an absolute beast. So far has been more or less dealt with by the time it gets into the other side, so Barrel comes in to distract a little bit of attention. Bandit's going to get intercepted on the left-hand side by Kamikaze. The Fireball going to be for a little bit of chip damage, primarily, as it doesn't seem like P.E.K.K.A.'s going to make too much progress on the right-hand side.
No, instead it's going to move over to that left-hand side and another aggressive push from Inthral.
Lightning again. But as we see, you know, I guess the big thing here for Kamikaze is look to that right-hand tower of Thrill. They have got lower health than Kamikaze does not have on either of them. The left-hand tower of Thrill is pretty healthy, but that won't matter once we get all the way to overtime.
It really won't. And that's why Inthral is very happy to just push and push and push. They know that they need to come back as quickly as they possibly can because Kamikaze really is mounting the pressure.
Ram Rider will not make too much progress on the far side. as we do have Dark Prince charging in. Lightning is again answering everything, but the charge on the right-hand side is good. They need to get this below 1265. On the left-hand side, that does happen. Kamikaze! No. Are they about to drop a game in the finals? They are!
Really well played here by Enthril, managing to play forward and just get aggressive and in your face. Committing onto that left-hand side was the best thing they decided to do that entire game. It just wasn't enough for Kamikaze to kind of keep up that pressure in the same way. And while Kamikaze wanted to play that slower and steadier pace, they didn't have quite as many answers. I think that was the big difference for me, and that they were kind of bringing the storm. It's an okay spell, but you have to keep in mind, it is 6 elixir. And that can set you so far behind, whereas you're kind of looking over the other side and you're like, Fireball. Obviously, I mean, there's been a house in Clash Royale for absolutely ever. Can just deal with a unit and take out pretty much towers after towers after towers.
All right, well, the throne is being shaken up here. Kamikaze dropping game number 1. Certainly seeing a big slip in terms of dominance here, as we will be seeing a bit of air power coming out from Kamikaze here, which we haven't seen a ton of so far across any of our series.
No, I mean, I'm liking the flexibility and already investing the Lava Hound onto that right-hand side. Could be a bit problematic. Obviously, the Zappies are going to keep it at bay, but giving it some support in the Baby Dragon could be a nice way to keep that pressure going.
So Enthril responding with some air power of their own. They successfully read the play, though the pups will be able to get a little bit of damage in. The Mother Witch, of course, an amazing answer here, getting a couple of hogs in exchange for dealing with the pups at the same time.
Yeah, really well done. Good cage here to keep them on pressure, and the Royal Hogs instantly invested. There was actually a big kind of trade on the left-hand side, but it ended relatively even. Using the miner defensively here alongside the Snowball, I think is a really good shout, and I love that Kamikaze has changed up those spells, because I really don't like the Lightning Storm.
No, I mean, it worked really well to clear the way for the Golem, but I think when you don't have a big commitment that you need to defend in that kind of way, you're right, I think the cost is just too damn high. One more spell coming out from Kamikaze, which we've yet to see. 2 from Thrill. We will be seeing the Lava Hound coming out once again. Though, not to say, we've only seen the Baby Dragon ready to support it directly.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a card left. Royal Recruits coming out here from Enthril, really playing that split push style, and I think it's working wonders for them right now, because Kamikaze was not responding well to it. Lava Hound keeps on marching forward, however, on this left side. Keep that in mind while the right side is still getting pushed, and you see extra spells getting invested there. Mother Witch here to turn all those lava pups into hogs, and that is a really big difference maker. The problem is, they are losing a lot of health on that left-hand tower.
Yeah, with more hogs to follow up as well. Thrill is looking really good here, though bear in mind the left-hand tower is very low as well. All this is doing is bringing it even. I say that, 1 or 2 more hits and it's going to be knocked over. This is a really close second game, but the Lava Hound does one thing really well. That's be a big sack of HP. Thrill needs to get back that left-hand tower, or this will be drawing us even in our grand finals.
Really like the investment of the Royal Hogs here, but with the Royal Guards, the Skeleton Guards coming on in, that might be enough. A good Fireball here means you can get a hit in, but it's not enough. 10 seconds. Cycle quickly in throw. You can get back to that Fireball potentially here. You need something, anything to get that damage down. Otherwise, Kamikaze is bringing it 1-1.
Alright, this is what we like to see. No 3-0s here in our grand final. Kamikaze made a big gamble here, I think, going for Lava Hound. As we saw, it felt like it had been red, that Mother Witch coming in. There was a ton of damage back from those hogs that got converted from the pups. But still, I think if anything, maybe underestimating quite how much damage they were taking themselves.
Yeah, very much kind of looking to trade it out. And things were getting pretty scary on either side. And I'm talking about that, for either player, but also either side. Again, that kind of split push deck from Enthril was fantastic. And I mean, I was talking about the left-hand side. I was highlighting, hey, want to try and cycle back through, get something. If that Fireball had invested on the right-hand side instead, I actually think that could have gone to overtime. And then it would have been so in favor of Enthril, because they have that split push style and they'd already taken so much health off the opposite side. Now, this could have been a 2-0, but Inthril making a small mistake and easily punished by Kamikaze, it shows the level of competition that we've got here. As first, a cursory miner to test the waters.
Hey, there's our friend Mother Witch coming through as well. Apparently, enough not affecting her popularity. I think just deals so very well with anyone who's to bring out any number of troops. Our Prince will deal with her spectacularly well, though we'll have a little bit more trouble, I suspect, against the Ghost. So, yeah, so far, minimal damage.
Yeah, very solid, though, for Inthril. Managing to get that extra tower damage from the miner kind of does make a big difference here. With the Royal Delivery, they could mount some pressure on that right-hand side.
I mean, this is going to make a huge difference. Whoever wins here is, hey, the Fisherman! That friend we haven't seen for a little while. I think it's going to try and, well, I was thinking maybe we might see a King Tower activation there, but no, we've just killed the Ewiz before that even happened. Got the poison being used to go after Mother Witch, and the tower itself, combined with the log, actually completely deals with her.
Yeah, and also gets a lot of damage on that tower. Keep that in mind. The 2-for-1 every single time. That's what we love to see from Inthril here, playing really smart with their spells. However, with a P.E.K.K.A marching towards them, smart might not be enough.
Yeah, they're going to need to have something which can deal with it. So far, we haven't seen that. The mortar, not the perfect answer here to a big single unit. It's not going to deal terribly well with the Ram Rider as well. There's the lightning again. Kamikaze refuses to give up on that spell. They will be able to get a little bit of damage in, but it costs them a lot to do it. Kamikaze is now ahead of the game.
Yeah, good amount of damage, and again, keep in mind that there wasn't the right response from Inthril. I like that they were bringing out the mortar to try and drag across the Ram Rider and also get some damage down, but I mean, it feels a little bit lackluster, you know? You're putting in 4 elixir and getting so little out.
Alright, let's get back into the brawl again. So Fisherman combined with P.E.K.K.A. Mega Minion is going to, I suspect, not do a tremendous amount here because Kamikaze is all about the push. That Prince will come in, going to be turned into a couple of hogs, I expect, to help reinforce his push. Log is decent, but it's not stopping. Kamikaze coming with a full head of steam. Delivery is something, but it's all getting turned against Thrill here. That Mother Witch is doing absolute work.
The porcine power of the Mother Witch is just too much. So much chunk here, and with the Ram Rider as well jumping on in, you know that's going to be a King Tower. Sorry, not a Princess Tower, sorry, for Kamikaze here, and as they move on into the King Tower here, and frankly, are chunking out quite heavily as well. If this went to overtime, Kamikaze could maybe take that there, but unfortunately ran out of time, and, you know, we'll just take the 1 crown win.
I think for Kamikaze in particular, this is a real return to form to them, you know, a re-showing of the confidence we've seen from them every single game from before. I think dropping that first game of the finals, that's enough to shake a player who's come in and said, I'm no longer undefeated. Perhaps the rest of the players are kind of catching on to my particular strategies, but now I think they have a lot of momentum coming into this game number 4, which could well be our last game of the series.
With the way that Kamikaze has been playing so far, it wouldn't be a surprise, honestly. It's interesting as well to see the kind of comparison between the two, where obviously Inthril is going, oh, I need to play wide, I need to play these split decks, I want to play the 2 different towers, and it's dealing a lot of damage to both of them. But you see it, Kamikaze is hyper-focused and just, you know, goes straight into that 1 tower and just takes it down.
Alright, game number 4 coming up. This could be our last game of Clash Royale today. Let's see if Kamikaze can reclaim their throne, or if the challenger with 1 game already in pocket in Thrill can provide an upset and force us all the way to game number 5.
It'll be an interesting one. I'd love to see us go to that final game with these 2 players. They've both been playing so solid, and it's definitely a proper possibility. Inthril here in with a pretty open deck strategy currently, whereas Kamikaze seems to be on similar things to what they were on last time. And you know what? I don't think it's a bad shout. Inthril returns to that more split pushy style as they have the Royal recruits.
There's the firewall being used to deal with the Mother Witch and also do tower damage at the same time. This is definitely something we saw from Inthril before. You're pointing out, you know, there's trying to get double value with those spells, deal with a unit, chip the tower at the same time.
Yeah, it's good to see. A little bit of chip coming in, but keep in mind, if Kamikaze gets that kind of momentum, things could go very bad very quick here. As the Mother Witch gets a couple of hogs down, and now with some backup, this could be a good push.
We can see that Royal Ghost, though, is doing a pretty good job of answering. The barrel is a solid chance to get back and at least trade the unit across. But this is the problem for Inthril we saw before. They didn't have a way of dealing with a single unit. Zappies? At least a partial answer that will buy Thrill some time.
Great usage here of the Royal Recruits to be both defensive and offensive at the same time. With a Fireball as well, taking down that Mother Witch. Things don't look so easy now for Kamikaze.
Good push on the left-hand side. Those recruits made it through. Look at that damage!
Oh my lord!
This can almost be over immediately.
Yes, 61 HP. You know that's only a matter of time. Inthril can now look at that and go, alright, I can literally end the game if we go to overtime at any point now. Focus now on being defensive, attacking that right-hand side, because right now the pressure is really mounting with the amount of damage they're able to deal, and it looks like Kamikaze, with the 50 seconds left, is going to be able to trade back that one pretty easily. Kamikaze understands that left tower is down, needs to defend the right-hand side.
This is such a great situation for our Polish player in Thrill. You know, they know that they can basically soak a lightning from Kamikaze just to get the tower down if Kamikaze can't otherwise get the damage through. And when your opponent is throwing out 6 elixir like that, you should hopefully be able to trade back solidly. There's another Fireball, another Mother Witch down. Certainly a lot less influential this time round.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one for me to see. Inthril investing way too much around it, and you know that that lightning could come on in. If you can force out a 6 elixir for absolutely nothing, that could be great. But doesn't quite do it, and the pressure is now on as Inthril is mounting attacks on both sides yet again.
You can see that Inthril is way ahead on the left-hand tower. Kamikaze, I think, is really stretching for anything to do here. P.E.K.K.A makes it across the bridge, barely alive. We're seeing fireballs directly onto the King Tower as double P.E.K.K.A from Kamikaze comes through. This is a very all-in play, and it's exactly the kind of play that they have to make.
Oh, this Royal Recruits was so clutch. It means that P.E.K.K.A isn't going to go straight onto the tower, and in fact, will die instead. Otherwise, that could have been so much damage. But you can see Kamikaze hasn't given up. The Ram Rider doing great work for them as the left-hand push is coming on in yet again from Inthril. Oh.
Another Fireball to the face there. Kamikaze is suffering, though both players' King Towers have taken a fair bit of kicking. Thrill is definitely ahead everywhere it counts. On the towers, on the King Tower as well. P.E.K.K.A is going to be coming out again, getting caught up in this mass of recruits. And the Hogs, they're being thrown on the left-hand side by themselves. I think we could be seeing a 3-crown.
We can indeed. Look at that push. It's so much damage. And the Mother Witch just has not been able to find anything for Kamikaze because of those fireballs coming straight into it. They're getting traded double duty as well. And big mistakes for sure. 45 seconds on the clock. And I mean, it's 700 HP on that King Tower. Inthral's kind of just biding their time and going again for those kind of all-encompassing plays.
It's just a question of where Inthril wins from. A good push down on the right-hand side. This is a desperation play. It's going to be close. Kamikaze, can you do it? Held up on the left-hand side. It's down to the wire. Surely not. Last hog coming in gets taken down. We're barely alive on both King Towers. Thrill is going to commit in everything on the right-hand side, trying to make sure they get the tower down. We're deep into overtime. This will lead us to game number 5. The Fireball to hit both. It's so close. That King Tower on both sides.
The storm!
The lightning comes in. It's gonna be.
That's it.
Holy crap! Kamikaze wins.
I honestly, I cannot believe that. Just about managed to cycle on in, and Kamikaze is your winner of the 1,800 euros. Honestly, I mean, again, standing up to what we believe in, smashing beta, smashing games, Kamikaze at the very bitter end. The literal last second that Storm came in, and that I thought with the Fireball coming in, with those Royal Hogs absolutely wailing on that right-hand side, it would have been enough to bring it back. But it wasn't. Really, genuinely unfortunate for Inthril. They played so darn well, but it wasn't enough to take down our reigning champion, Kamikaze.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we were criticizing the Lightning for, sometimes being a little bit more expensive than it was really necessary. But yeah, it just did the job there. That couldn't have been close as well. Kamikaze holds onto their throne. It's by an inch. I definitely feel like the field of other players coming in now is so much stronger than it was before. It's surely only going to be a matter of time until someone knocks Kamikaze off their perch.
Matter of time, but Kamikaze seems to be keeping up that pressure as well. Really well played. And very excited to see more from them. We do actually have an interview with Kamikaze coming up. Hi, Kamikaze. Congratulations again. We're seeing you in these finals again, and you've picked up that W. Honestly, I mean, the big question for me, I mean, it was kind of poetic to see, obviously, win you the game. Why are you running the, obviously, big 6-off storm spell?
Oh, well, thank you, first of all. It feels amazing to be back on the title. I don't know. I feel like Intrill is gonna take some deck that is good against me, so I wanted to surprise him in some way, so I took Lightning, and it feels amazing in last second. I won the game.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask here. It seemed like with you dropping in games earlier on in the competition, it's not like a clean run for you anymore through the competition. How do you feel about your other competitors? How do you feel about the general field of other Clash Royale players? Is the standard getting better?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's now 6 years into the game, and of course, some players are getting better and better, and it's taking another step in the higher competitive scene. And now, if you want to be good, you need to be just on the next level in the game.
Absolutely. We saw a lot of big, heavy hitters from you. We saw the Peckers, we saw the Golems. Is that kind of a strategy you'd like to play around, where you obviously have that big upfront push, where you've got that big meaty unit in front and the damage characters behind?
Well, it depends. I like to use mostly Giants, Golem, Pekka, but sometimes I like to surprise my opponents, because I play decks they wouldn't never expect from you, and that's kind of strategy that always works, and I had a success with that today.
I mean, I guess looking towards the future then, especially with the cards that got changed in the most recent patch, are there any kind of cards you're looking at as potentially lines into some of those decks that will be dominant in the future?
Well, I don't know. I think champions are gonna be very good, but we can't use them today, and I don't know. I think Dark Goblin could take some. We will take into arena a little better, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Dark Goblin, I've kind of seen a couple of people picking up, and it manages to chip away at some of those big units while also cleaning up very fast. I mean, honestly, I'm so impressed. I'm still kind of dumbstruck by the fact that you managed to pull it out at the very last second with the big spell there. I was super exciting. Is there anyone you want to say thank you to, or anyone you want to shout out?
No, I just want to thank for Trovo, for you streamers, for everyone who helped me, and for congratulating me, and that's it.
All right, Kamikaze, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, we'll get to see you again down the line. Multi-time champion, incredibly impressive stuff. But that's all the time we've got for you today for Clash Royale. So thank you guys so much for joining us, but plenty more action to come across today. Oh boy, it was really nice to actually talk to Kamikaze directly, because, I think we kind of perceive Kamikaze as more of a force of nature than an actual person.
Yeah, it was kind of scary to see just how dominant they were being, and to get an actual face to the name is fantastic to see. And I mean, obviously picking up this win overall, that 1.8k euro winner, and very much deserve it, and really humble as well. Lovely to talk to the guy, and very excited to see more from them, honestly, as we keep on going through. And you can see right at the very top there, Kamikaze in first and Inthril over in that second. El Nino and Addy not quite able to put the same kind of fight. An interesting one to be sure, to see. Hopefully we get more players coming back, because we've got a couple of names on there who had played in the previous seasons, obviously Kamikaze themselves, but Tankeray coming back, I believe, as well, Sony, and I think Simon Dubsky was at least playing in at least some of the qualifiers last time.
And I really hope in particular for Inthril there, as much as it's going to be very frustrating to have that last game end out that particular way, where it seemed like they absolutely had the game. I hope this just lights more of a fire in them to know that they can beat the best player in the competition. And, you know, if they come back again, there's a very good chance that they at least go to Game 5 in the finals again, if not perhaps even win it themselves.
Honestly, I'm a little bit mad at Kamikaze here. Because, frankly, we were robbed of that Game 5. It would have been fantastic, and I was so excited. But, hey, Kamikaze just kicking backside here. Really impressed with how they've done.
Alright guys, again, that's all we've got time for with Clash Royale. League of Legends will be coming up next, so we'll be taking a short break while we get set up for that. An absolutely amazing day smashing a beta here, so stick around. Loads more fun times coming up.
Let's go. Let's go. MGC moments, baby.
Oh my god!
Everybody in his power bank is with $1,000 of money. So
Welcome back to the Trovo Titans Smashing Beta, where we're having a 24-hour stream across many regions. Of course, here in Europe, we're going to have 7 beautiful games, of which one has just actually ended. RJ, that means we're going over towards the next one, but of course, let's take a look at the schedule to see which one it will be.
Indeed, and that looks to be none other than the, well, some would say most beautiful game of all. Personally, I wouldn't say so, but it will be League of Legends. That's coming up soon enough. Of course, to reiterate, I'm at RJ Cast. That's the beautiful. That told us much. Also important to know. And I'm excited to see what that's going to give. We're not going to be casting it, which is maybe for the best. But at least we get to introduce it. A lovely game that will be League of Legends.
I think it's definitely for the best, RJ, because I'm not really sure that we would have the energy it takes. Of course, we have some quite handy people to take you through it. Of course, then again, we do have that schedule for you. We had Clash Royale, now we have League of Legends, followed up by Brawl Stars, PUBG Mobile, CSGO, and Call of Duty Mobile. But of course, as you can see, there will be the special event, which of course will be, drum ruffle please, boing! It's the Titan Points Grand Final with Fall Guys. The top 50 Titans will participate, or at least we'll have the invite, and we'll see who can take the pressure to take the money as well.
Indeed, I'm very excited for that as well. A lot of money up for grabs here, an amazing opportunity for everybody participating. So, you know, for the people that will be in that Fall Guys tournament, I think they're gonna know what they're really fighting for, and well, it's going to be interesting to see who will get that crown at the end.
I'm hoping to see at least a deserving winner, but I think all of them are deserving winners. To be here in the grand final is already a feat to begin with. I'm curious to see how they will stack up with this pressure, and of course the prizes in there as well. RJ, of course, League is going to be quite interesting. What are you going to look forward to?
Ooh, good question to ask, really. League, I've always found a difficult game, but I do know a little bit about it. So I just want to see the very best get on top, and I want to see, you know, some really wild lane pushes, you know, to try and use professional terms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Real professional here, RJ, but I believe we're playing ARAM, so I'm not really sure how that is going to pan out. Of course, we do have some beautiful casters setting ready. One you already know, it's Counterfeit. Beautiful man. We saw him. He's already flaming RJ for his lack of mobile love, which I already agree with. And we have Exodus, a Belgian guy. And that, of course, makes RJ blush and be happy.
One of my countrymen, yes.
I was figuring, like, when I asked, what are you looking for within League, that you'd say Exodus because he's a Belgian caster.
Okay, fair point. Fair point. No, of course. I'm always happy to see Exodus. Always good to see that lovely man appear. And speak of the devil, there they are, the one and only Exodus, and of course Counterfeit, yet again, because we can never get enough of him. How are you gentlemen doing? I'd say take it away, Exodus.
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, RJ. It's been really great to come back here to the Trovo Titans, actually see how, first of all, the new items do in ARAM, and second of all, who can crown themselves the biggest ARAM champion, because in the format, it's been changing a little bit. It's been going back and forth between 3 and 5, but it does feel like some of these teams are definitely dominating this playing field.
Well, Counterfeit, of course, you've already had a single game before. That's mobile. Now you're going away from mobile. Does this mean you're stepping away from mobile entirely?
Well, I would definitely take issue with RJ again, trying to throw shade at the games coming up on the stream. Good gosh, it is the beautiful game of League of Legends. What I love particularly about this, with us being on the ARAM mode, is we're gonna get 2 teams here who take ARAM-style gameplay, or Howling Abyss as it's called, the map, extremely seriously. You know, these are 2 teams who've been able to play, you know, non-standard League of Legends across tons and tons of different tournaments. I think we've set up for a really, really good finals between 2 teams who absolutely are coming in with all guns blazing.
Well, we'll be back with you in just a second. Of course, we'll have a look at the highlights of the ARAM tournament so far.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you invited me. Thank you so much. like Seth is my favorite champion because I can feast my enemies like feast, 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 feast.
Does to live to regret it.
Oh, that was a
Here
crit!
comes Miro. Breakdance kill is gonna be run down. It's Jinx all day, every day. Not asleep. Get the ace, and they are on to the Nexus Towers.
Well, Not Asleep seemed to be a pretty decent team. Exodus, you're looking forward to a beautiful game night today. What are your expectancies?
It's difficult to put into words because there have been some changes. I mean, we are in preseason right now, and for League of Legends fans out there, sorry you CSGO casters, but there's a lot of stuff changing within League constantly, and especially in preseason, that's basically when Riot Games says, hey, so you know how chess works? Well, now you're playing Monopoly. So we're a little bit in that kind of ballpark here, but I imagine that a team like Not Asleep, who have been absolutely dominating their run, should or possibly can dominate the finals as well.
Well, of course, we'll have to see. We're going to hand it over to you entirely so you can talk all the preseason you want. Enjoy, guys.
Thanks.
All right. So again, I am Canfit, joined by Exodus, and we are heading into what should be a truly explosive grand finals. We have got one of the most dominant teams we've ever seen in any context ever. Not Asleep, but absolutely terrifying. Let's have a quick look across our format here, though, before we get too far into talking about the teams.
Yeah, we are playing obviously on the Howling Abyss map, on the ARAM map as some people like to call it, but the official title, which we like to use, is the Howling Abyss, also because it sounds pretty nice. The game mode, obviously, you want to destroy the enemy's nexus, and it is tournament draft, meaning there is strategy involved, there is pick and ban, there isn't just, hey, you get a random champion, good luck, you stick with it. No. You need to figure out what the enemy is going to do, like you would do on a normal Summoner's Rift map. And because we are in the final, best of threes, guys.
Let's take a look at some of the prizes our players are fighting for. Just like every other final today, the first prize is 1,800 euros, with 800 for second place. In this particular case, because we've got somewhat longer games, we're showing just the grand finals itself. So 1,000 euros difference between first and second will be determined on this single best of three.
And let's take a look at that bracket as well, because we did end up with two teams, Not Asleep and FMW, but as you can see, there were a lot of people involved. If you have been a fan of the Trovo Titans, especially the League of Legends side, you can see some familiar names, Not Asleep definitely among them, but I would say new teams like the Greyhounds even, who I haven't seen before, also newcomers who haven't been faring particularly well.
Yeah, I mean, we can see FMW over on the other side there. You know, they made it through to the finals. They have definitely taken the longer road to get here. You know, Not Asleep have been super dominant the whole way through. You know, not dropping games at all. When we look back to our last broadcast, with Kamikaze, who started to slip a little bit in terms of being super dominant. That has not happened for Not Asleep. They have remained up at the top of the heap. FMW are merely the latest challengers.
It's almost an enigma, Not Asleep, because Not Asleep, the last time I think that both of us casted them, they were doing extraordinarily well in their respective tournament, remaining undefeated for, wait a minute, not one tournament. These aren't games, these aren't series, tournaments, but two. And afterwards, heading into the finals against the B team, and that's where they finally dropped 2 games, but they still won the tournament, man. Like, you gotta respect that.
Alright, let's head across to pick and ban. So again, while we're playing on the ARAM map, this is not ARAM mode, this is tournament draft. So our teams do have an opportunity here to try and catch the other one out. You know, we've certainly seen some very powerful picks coming in, but we'll also get the bans as well to try and look out for particular one tricks from the opposing squads, or just picks that are generally too strong to allow through.
We've seen some classics being put down on this particular game format, something like the Seraphine, like the Soda, but also something like the Azir, and even Tryndamere did really well. Now, once again, we are in preseason, we are on a new patch, so some changes might still be relevant. I really would recommend building Axiom Arc. That item is busted through the roof, especially on the Howling Abyss map, and I'm gonna tell you a story as soon as we get in game on that one.
Well, so let's see. So for the bans we've got coming in from Not Asleep side of things, again, the incredibly dominant team, they've gone for more assassin, engaging kind of style. For FMW, they've taken away both of the super popular healing champions, but also Misfortune with that big AoE.
We're seeing a rotation. Yeah, we saw a champion rotation there. Ta-da! It's a little bit of a zinger, but Not Asleep picking the Trundle, locking it in. That is actually interesting. Not a pick I was expecting, maybe trying something along the lines of a lethal tempo Trundle. Now, to be fair, I actually do believe that the best skill from Trundle on the Howling Abyss map is his pillar.
Oh, for sure. It's so incredibly hard to deal with it. But one way you can do that is to make sure that when one of your members gets caught, you can do something about it. FMW, they're going to bring in the Lulu to allow them to keep ahead of any kind of play. Question then becomes, how much damage are Not Asleep going to put in that Lulu is going to try and deny it? One more pick coming in. It's the classic pairing perhaps for FMW here. It's the hyper carry of Jinx.
Hyper carry of Jinx combined with the Lulu. People thought, Lulu, you can play Kog'Maw in that and get that, right? Well, yes, but Jinx is kind of broken right now. Jinx is just so strong, especially with the new lethal tempo. It is still the same old Jinx, though, where she does need time to scale. She does need time to actually get online.
Alright, so we've got the poke from Karma and the shielding, the Leona as well. We have known that, basically anything that allows you to function well in a team fight is certainly pretty darn strong here. So for FMW, we've got the Jinx going to be protected by the Lulu. Now it remains to be seen what else they'll bring to this continuous team fight, which is the Howling Abyss. Aurelia going to be teased here. Going to hold off on that for quite a while to see. I mean, certainly, we know that AoE abilities are strong. Aurelia will be the pick here, so it's going to be really hard to get through the Aurelia ult when it's occupying so much of that central lane.
Not only that, Not Asleep has three members of their team right now who want to run at you, but are also very vulnerable to something like a champion that likes to auto-attack tanky members on lifesteals in the process and doesn't mind building Blade of Druid King first. Oh yeah, Aurelia! Oh yeah, that's on the board here, FMW. I like the pick from them, also because it does create a distraction. It does create a distraction during, I want to say, a mid-game for the Jinx, where Jinx gets a little bit of breathing room. FMW has ways of coping with that.
Yeah, creating space for your carry is so important. One thing, of course, we haven't seen from Not Asleep is they haven't taken an AD carry of their own. So it won't be a Phelios, it won't be Ashe for those major engages. Not Asleep themselves, they're looking to go after more traditional Howling Abyss picks. That Kiana is so ridiculous. I'm kind of glad we don't see it here in Game 1.
It is interesting, though, that you pick the Trundle but ban the Kiana. If you're asking why, that is a very powerful combination. It's tricky to pull off, though. I have seen it done, but I also have seen it fail a lot more. So it's basically the pillar into the supreme display of talent. Now, a good point, a good remark you gave before Counterfeit is, Not Asleep still having picked their hyper carry.
Yeah, no, I don't know what they're going to take here. It's worth noting again, Not Asleep play a ton of Howling Abyss tournaments, so we never have it in mind that Not Asleep have ever been outdrafted or outmaneuvered in the draft. They know exactly what they're doing. Their win rate is ludicrously good, so if they've chosen not to take a hyper carry early on, presumably they've got something else in mind.
Ooh, the Syndra being potentially hovered here from the sleep, definitely something you can use on the Howling Abyss map, and when you want to blow up a hyper carry more towards a late game, that is something you can deal with. Also, Syndra, because of the Scatter the Weak, is so good to find picks on this map, because you're in a straight line, put 1 or 2 Qs down, you have those balls, and you try and scatter those weak, and there's one of the hyper carries from Not Asleep finally locked in as well.
Yeah, the Zaya's going to have that Featherstorm to get herself out of trouble. And of course, what do we like? We like AoE because we're team fighting all day, every day. The Orianna from FMW is certainly going to do the same for their squad. One more pick coming in. We haven't got too much tankiness so far for FMW, so I have to wonder if that might be coming in from that final pick. But no, it's going to be Tryndamere. Good sustain, but not necessarily the strongest at denying direct damage.
Tryndamere right now is... I mean, he's actually same old Tryndamere, but even worse. He's a bit of a risk. With the lethal tempo, so as soon as some of my remarks that I make are relevant, I always said, hey, the most useful stat, the most overpowered stat in League of Legends is movement speed. Because if you buff that on any champion, they become way better. Objectively, and then Riot said, oh, here's a tech range buff, and now it's clear that it's a tech range. So with the lethal tempo on something like a Tryndamere, there we go, you can do some nasty stuff.
Alright, we'll have to see. FMW, mostly known for their 2v2 tournaments rather than ARAM, going up against the absolute emperors of the Howling Abyss map. Not Asleep are terrifying as they get an early tanking damage onto Despot, though. You can see they actually managed to not die, which is in itself fairly impressive.
I'd say Despot Durko over there almost was extraordinarily lucky that he wasn't caught between, because that's what Not Asleep was going for. Wasn't caught between the wall and the pillar. Tricky to pull off once again, but if that had happened, I guarantee you that would have been first blood.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, you know, on Howling Abyss in particular. You're coming in with a level 3, so you have your combos from the very start of the game. FMW, they're playing pretty far back in the early going. One of the concerns I've got for this Tryndamere pick as well for FMW is if, you know, normally they can sustain pretty well by getting those hits in those Fury and then cashing that in for health. It's going to be very hard to get any hits in when you're under constant threat of annihilation.
It's not only that you can't really get any hits in, you can get that Fury going, which is bad for healing, but also bad for doing damage, because you don't, as Tryndamere, you always want to go into a fight full Fury, then you get the extra crit chance, you also get the extra attack damage when you're low, so it's something you want to have up continuously. On this map, especially with Not Asleep pushing in this hard, not gonna be something they need to be worrying about.
There's a little bit of the combo there, as we're seeing the poke definitely lying with Not Asleep for the time being. Note as well, we're seeing a little bit of CSing action coming in. 10 onto Mirai on the Zaya, but actually seeing a split CS approach from FMW. Normally we're expecting to see these AD carries getting all the farm as far as possible to get those items early.
FMW definitely still on the defensive here. They are more or less turret hugging when they can and more or less trying to push out when they need CS. That's the only two reasons. You can clearly see them taking a risk. Also, snowballs are available, so you do have a Tryndamere that can jump in when the occasion, when the occasion is there.
So let's see what the damage is in these first couple of minutes. The gold, not too different because we've not seen any kills. Though the CS advantage is lying, in the advantage of Not Asleep just because they've got all of that CS on one member. Something we have seen, Exodus, from many of our teams is they are more than happy to actually allow themselves to die once they hit enough gold to make sure they can go back and get those big first item purchases in.
Yes, for the people who are a little bit unaware how this meta works on the Howling Abyss map, you will see a lot of tactical executes after potentially a team fight here. No good scatter of the week to completely deny it, but FMW so much on the backdraft here. So executes, if you're this low, like for example, our Lulu here, why stay in the game? Just see if you can go for death, just see if you can actually force something.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing such good trading from Not Asleep as first blood comes in. Not Asleep looks so much in control. Exactly as you said, they've got FMW exactly where they want to be, which is minimal health bars, but FMW aren't willing to get themselves killed to get back into lane fighting under the tower. And it's not just FMW's health bars which are low, the tower is as well. Sammy gets 2 kills before being dropped. That is a shutdown across onto Accept Pain's Jinx. So that's not fantastic news for Not Asleep either, but they're still getting a lot of work done.
Oh, the Vanguard's Edge connects, but the Aurelia stunned either way, still trying to reset her Qs. Doesn't really manage to. The Pillar of Ice putting some mud in the water for the Tryndamere. Only available, but the Snowball connects.
Yeah, FMW have got a real opportunity here. I mean, this is one of the things that FMW have as a team comp that just Not Asleep just doesn't have. It's having the Jinx, you've got the reset potential as the shutdown comes in. That's a lot of kills back in. It's 5 apiece. As we can see, we've got 2 across 2 different members of Not Asleep. For FMW, they spread them out a little bit more. As Ketalos will sell themselves, and there's a shutdown under the tire as well. These teams, they've got a lot of money burning holes in their pockets. And that's what you need to do. Get killed, get spending.
I like what FMW did here. So if some people are asking, hey, what happened there? Why did the Lulu and Oriana just turret dive for no reason? Just a reset rotation. That's basically the only thing. You want to reset here on this map whenever you can, but you're continuously in this catch-22, where you're sitting, hey, we want to reset, but if we reset, to reset, we need to die.
Despot getting pretty aggressive there. Barely surviving the exchange, but we have got Tryndamere coming in the back. Tryndamere, and the double kill comes in for Accept Pain. So this is what we're talking about before. FMW, they've got the hyper carry who has not quite the resets, but has the ability to go really big after getting kills in. Not Asleep from controlling the early game. They're now on the back foot, and they will be the ones to drop the first tower.
This is interesting because looking at what happened over the past 4 minutes, this is not something I was expecting. FMW might actually go a little bit further here, and they can dish out more damage on the Sleep, and especially stall them from retaking their Adler turret. Now the Jinx becomes online, and she got Jinxie with it.
That was real nice work there. We can see the rest of FMW feeding themselves into the maw of Not Asleep. Though notable that both AD carries have been picking up the lion's share of the kills here, so they're going to be well equipped for these future fights.
Something I do want to highlight is where are these kills divided. So as you said already, yeah, both AD carries on both sides are definitely picking up gold and kills and experience, which is what they need because they're hyper carries, so they need to scale. But on the other hand, you also have the Syndra pick from Not Asleep. I am Sammy with 5 kills. I'm building towards the second item. You can see how much damage he's dishing out with those Qs, with those scattered weaks. FMW needs to be careful because you can have a hyper carry as fed as you want if you haven't if she's playing up against a fed Syndra. All you need is R-Man.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think it takes, much more a setup for FMW to get their perfect team fight. They want that shockwave across, ideally, the whole team. But, as you said, Not Asleep, their Syndra, so much more flexibility, just looking for any target that's on low health and deleting them without too much of a chance for FMW to respond.
It's not only that, as you can see here, FMW, especially with their Royale and the Tryndamere, they are the one that needs to take the risks, while this is a very good Vanguard Edge, extraordinarily good Shockwave.
Yeah, that's what the Vanguard's Edge is setting up as FMW going in very aggressively. Drax knows they cannot get out of the fight, but they can at least sell themselves dearly. FMW, though, they do not come out ahead of that play. I think it's as you said, having the 2 fed members, or 2 more fed members for Not Asleep, is giving them the damage edge in these fights.
It's also the disengage potential that Not Asleep has as the Xenoblade connects, might even take down the Jinx. Well played from Not Asleep there, but the disengage potential that they have, because you have a Trundle, you have a Karma, and you have a Leona. These are 3 tools that they're using to their effectiveness. They are saying, hey, you want to engage with all your flashy ultimates? Pillar, Solar Flare, we're gonna wait 10 seconds and then we're gonna win the fight.
Alright, so coming up to minute number 9, FMW going in aggressively again. As you said, the disengage pretty good for Not Asleep. They don't want to take a fight. They don't have to, except for that Vanguard's Edge. Nice Solar Flare from Among Us sets up the play. FMW getting swept away here in the exchange. And it's looking so good for Not Asleep. Except Pain has the chance to get excited, gets a double kill, drops down the rocket, but they can't close the distance.
The fact that Not Asleep is actually succeeding and once again stalling and once again poking down this Jinx, you can even give her a kill, or you can just kill her. Both work, Not Asleep. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, there's not really any defensive itemization there for Accept Pain. They're relying on their teammates to buy them space as a shutdown for the Orianna. Going to be fed across as well to make that a double. Worst jungle EU West. Playing, I guess, more or less a mid laner here. 5 kills so far, less than either of the big carries of the Not Asleep.
Maybe that's why he's the worst jungle EU West, because he just likes mid lane champs.
I mean, mid lane, jungle Orianna might be the problem as well.
Might not be the best of, best in the jungle meta at the moment, but who actually is pretty good in this meta is, as you can see, these Tryndamere picks from FMW, because Tryndamere is such a nuisance to deal with. Not Asleep does need, we were talking before about, hey, they have stalling mechanics with the way they're drafting their team composition, but with this Tryndamere pick, they also need to use them. Tryndamere goes in and then takes up so much focus, takes up so much time. Something I do want to highlight, I don't know how much I agree with the reset from this deal though. Unless it was a very important item. Okay, yeah, the combination with the support items, but still, you're giving Not Asleep a pretty big window here.
Yeah, and that's always a big conundrum as the Shockwave comes through, doesn't get too much of anything. Not Asleep forcing out the play, nice shutdown onto the Orianna, that's half of the carry's gone immediately. Right into the center of the play, FMW are falling to pieces, double kill for the Trundle. Jinx on the top of your screen is trying desperately for those resets. The Lulu comes in, but too late to make the save, and the inhibitor is already getting smashed down here. It's gone from an even game to what could well be a rout.
And this is why I said I didn't agree with the Lulu reset there, because you gave Not Asleep a window to go for this dive, to go for this push, and now you can see the backhand of that. It is definitely them taking down the inhibitor and potentially almost taking down the first Nexus turret. Now you're thinking, okay, that Nexus turret, oh, it's still alive. Yes, but do keep in mind, this is the Howling Abyss map, and turrets do not regen here. Nexus turrets do not regen, meaning that turret is just, almost dead in the water.
FMW needs to make up a lot of ground here. You can see Worst Jungle's going to execute themselves, or rather give the kill across thanks to a well-placed piece of poke, because they got that triple kill in before. They need to spend out. You said, I think the big difference here, I absolutely agree, FMW need to be so careful about their resets, which is just something you don't really get in regular League of Legends quite so much, that you're actually trying to kill off members of your own team in such a way that you don't lose too much ground while they're respawning.
It's literally the tactical int and how to use it.
Yes.
Not Asleep. Yeah, Not Asleep knows how to do this. FMW apparently less so. Now I don't want to, I don't want to put too much pressure, too much blame onto them. You need to go for these resets as well. So you're continuously to stay in what I would call the catch-22 on this map. Now, Not Asleep knows if they can win this team fight, they end the game.
Snowballs, of course, going to allow Tryndamere into the backline. Rocket doesn't do too much damage. Jinx is going to be firing the backline, trying to take down the Leona, as Drax is trying to stumble away from the fight. Force out the flash from Accept Pain. Big shields to keep that Jinx alive. Not Asleep, not getting quite as much as they would like, and their health bars are a little low, which means Accept Pain, if they can get the kill in, then they can suddenly start going off huge.
Yeah, but look at Orianna. So double kill immediately, going further with 3 people down.
Not Asleep. They've got the opportunity here. That Nexus Tower, as you said, not regenerating. FMW could be done here. The Tryndamere definitely seeming like the most suspect pick of the bunch. Not Asleep, though. Their win rate across ARAM tournament after ARAM tournament is absolutely ludicrous. And here in our grand finals, it's looking like they're going to do it again. All it took was less than 14 minutes for them to lock down the first game of the grand finals.
That means that there is a very good chance that Not Asleep will be going into that next game very confidently. And don't forget, this is a best of 3, meaning if they go for a 2-0, they immediately get the win and are crowned our Trovo Titans for League of Legends. I mean, it's insane how well they've been doing in this particular format.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, I think it's so important that if you're going to be playing a tournament like this, that, it's not a game mode you just come to casually. It's not something you say, oh, we play regular League of Legends, we'll just kind of slip into here and it'll be totally fine. this is a team not asleep who are specialists in the A-round mode. They've got a 94% win rate across all of their Challenger mode games in various, in A-round tournaments of all different flavors. They are an absolute force of nature. For FMW, I think we're going to need to see some major changes in game number 2 if they're going to be able to bring it back to game 3.
I think there are a couple of stuff that FMW needs to work on if they want to take the next game. But let's first go into the pick and man and see what tools they will be using. I'd say FMW, some of the unfortunate resets that came through were not really helping their progress towards pushing. But I would also say that the team composition looked a little bit lackluster at certain points. It does very much feel that Not Asleep, as you said before, Counterfeit, they are more seasoned in this. And they just have that coordination down. And that is something that FMW is doing better at, because last time they didn't get it to this place. I mean, don't forget they're in the finals, but still, Not Asleep is here, and they just took the first game pretty confidently.
So FMW going to adjust their bans a little bit coming into game number 2, going after the Zaya here. So that's a safe AD carry of the field for Not Asleep as Viego comes in from them. Certainly, this is reflecting what we saw from game number 1. FMW really hard going after the AD carry position.
Akali being banned away by Not Asleep, so definitely not wanting to have any assassins on their team. Also, still, don't forget Axiom Arc champions who can build it on this particular game or do extraordinarily well with it. And with the resets, it also means that, hey, I die, I immediately have my ultimate back, so I can use it in quick succession, which is very important for this particular game mode. And this is a ban I would like to see from FMW, the Karma, because the Karma is so oppressive on this map. She does everything from shielding to engaging to protecting to poking to actually bursting.
Yeah, I mean, this is a journey that FMW are on here. They're trying to play catch-up with Not Asleep. The fact that they actually are adjusting bans between games means that, Not Asleep always have the chance to try and get ahead of them in the draft, as the Syndra will be banned out. Presumably they're expecting FMW to snap that up from themselves first pick otherwise.
Oh, this would be an interesting one. FMW, the Seraphine, as you can see, viewers at home, definitely not banned. And Seraphine is actually kind of what Karma did last game. It is the poke, but instead of shields, it's healing and shield. So Seraphine, one of those top tier picks.
Probably not going to be coming out for Not Asleep, though. Notable, as I think you're alluding to there, is that we haven't had the Sona banned out, so Not Asleep could grab that for themselves. Sony FMW don't generally want to have both of those picks on their team, as Camille, who was banned out in our previous game, will be headed to the field again for this one.
I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see something like a Sona Seraphine combo. It looks a bit, Is that too much of having the healer support in there? Too much of having that enchanter support in there? Yes and no. It kind of depends on the team composition you're running. But if you have a hyper carry, like for example what is being hovered here, running a Seraphine Sona combo would definitely be a good thing, because don't forget, these two champions on this map, they get so much gold generation that they can actually build some AP as well, so they can actually start doing some damage, especially with some of the items, the AP items that have been reworked in preseason. Seraphine, you want to build Seraphine 2 support items and then full damage, you can betcha you can do that.
And it would be a good denial pick as well, away from Not Asleep, to make sure they don't have that healing of their own, but instead, it's going to be the Poppy. So that steadfast presence, we did see this a lot in our previous A-round tournaments, locking down mobility in the AoE. It's certainly a great way to make team fights very hard to navigate for Not Asleep.
It also, the steadfast presence, definitely one of the better champion abilities while you pick Poppy, especially against the Camille. But don't forget as well, the ultimate, the Poppy Copter, as we like to call them on casts, can actually make huge differences in this map, because when you go for a push, especially when you're against something who is very mobile like a Jinx, get the front line away, or just get the Jinx out of the equation, and all of a sudden you're going to see the numbers will be looking better at your end.
But Not Asleep deciding not to take the sun on themselves, getting that Jinx in place, so that means FMW are able to ban it away, and as well, looks like they're going to try and take away some of that safety. While it didn't necessarily work out terrifically for FMW in game number 1, certainly on paper, it's good. As Not Asleep, they go for the Wukong and the Kiana from before. The standard bans that have worked pretty well.
Interesting that Not Asleep is actually mixing up their composition with what FMW was doing, because you see the Trundle, you see the Camille, you're thinking, this is what Not Asleep was. This was a similar game comp, this was a similar composition they had in the first game. But then they took the Jinx and Orianna, recognizing the potential from FMW and not wanting to give that one away.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Not Asleep are also adapting as well. FMW bringing in Aurelia again. I'm a little wary of the Aurelia pick. Didn't pick up a single kill in the previous game. So I think, like, you know, theoretically fine, but struggling a little bit against Not Asleep. One more pick's coming from FMW, though. I would like to see the Cassiopeia coming through here. Amazing area control.
Not only area control, just damage output in general, and also the ultimate is something that needs to be feared constantly. FMW has a lot of high damage output targets. I'm talking about the Aurelia, I'm talking about the Aphelios and the Cassiopeia, but Not Asleep is more focused towards we have good engage, and we have good utility, and then we have a Jinx on top of that. Does put more pressure onto the Jinx, does put her more in a, oh, I have so many people that just want to straight up kill me because, you know, otherwise we might be lacking damage. But FMW also needs way more gold to get to that level. We clearly saw the Aurelia not picking up a single kill, as you said already last game, because she went for Gore Drinker, which makes her tankier, but doesn't really give her that much of a power creep.
So something I'm noticing here from FMW side is, we've got the Cassiopeia, we've got the Poppy, we've got, I guess to an extent, the Seraphine. It feels like these are great tools for stopping an opposing squad from getting into your face, particularly Camille from Not Asleep, but there is a lot of good range from Not Asleep squad as well. Let's get on to the Abyss, though, for what could easily be the final time. Not Asleep defending their crown here as absolutely the most dominant ARAM team, most dominant Howling Abyss team I think any of us have ever seen. FMW, they're hoping to get to Game 3, but it's going to be quite the task to do so.
And I'm going to shoehorn this story that I promised the audience in now, because there is still the opportunity, as you said, and we don't have time. So, I was doing some research for this particular tournament, and I thought, hey, new item. Let's see if I can get Sylas on Axiom Arc on the Howling Abyss map. I could, and I ran into the issue with Sylas, where Sylas has an internal cooldown clock, right? I sold so many ults with Axiom Arc, I couldn't steal anybody's ult anymore. All of the other champs, I had mine, but I just, that's the definition of first world problems right there, because there was nothing. I was like, yeah, I'm literally suffering from my own success here.
I am very surprised we're not seeing Sylas coming in, because that was a pick we saw in a previous ARAM tournament do very, very well for a lot of teams, because if everyone's bringing out AoE ultimates, we didn't even see people banning the Sylas, and it's such a great pick to bring out at the end of a draft and say, oh, you've got the best tools for the job, now we do as well.
Not only that, Sylas actually has a plethora of ways you can kind of build it. I mean, you can go full damage Sylas, you can go a sort of more, spell vamp against bruiser Sylas, or if you want, it's not the greatest of builds, you can literally go tank Sylas.
Oh, hold the phone there, as Not Asleep will lock down the first kill onto the Jinx. Mirai very happy with that. A good amount of tankiness from FMW, as Among Us will dance between. I think, we're going to see Mirai pick up another kill as well. I think they might be looking for an execute sooner than not.
Oh, that's a good root on the Aphelios. Still locked on, and Jinxie getting so Jinxie with it. The get excited, and she can get excited because she keeps on getting these takedowns.
Yeah, really, really nice stuff. Ending out with 3 kills there. Despot gets 1 back for the FMW team, so we are drawn even there. But it's a little unfortunate that 2 of those kills go into the Poppy rather than any going into the Aphelios.
I was going to say, I'm thinking I Am Sammy is regretting that last flash because he should have gone for the execute, not on top of that kill, because all of a sudden, you can remain in the game and you have your shockwave and you don't need a reset as Oriana at this point. So good play from Not Asleep, and this is once again the extra experience, I would say, the extra prowess they have gathered in playing these tournaments.
Despot getting maybe a little over-aggressive there. Decides to go into the backline anyway, and feeds themselves across. Despot with a kill and assist, so maybe they're going to spend out a little bit of the gold, and the Will could be coming back with a pickaxe. We are seeing some of those items coming in early on, though, as Mirai's got a pickaxe of their own, except Pain under the tower, as Among Us goes in very aggressively. Kill back in for worse. Jungle gets the double kill as well. Is that a triple? Not quite. But Not Asleep are getting rocked here. Triple kill for Cassiopeia, and suddenly FMW are alive in the series.
One of the things I do want to highlight is something Not Asleep. It went well in the beginning for them on the back end of the last fight, but you know, midway through they a little bit lackluster. You want to expand the champions that have outsurfed their usefulness. Now, what does that exactly mean? Well, when you get into a fight and your Oriana uses Shockwave, uses rotation of abilities, and she is below half HP, you could just say, okay, I'll kind of be the sacrificial lamb, and then rinse and repeat until you hopefully only have your ADC left, or you know, you can also have 5 team members left, but if you only have your ADC, if you only have your Jinx left, that's the biggest damage output you can do on these turrets.
Not a ton of damage being done on that tower, at least. So we're still waiting for the first tower to fall here. Not Asleep, certainly ahead right now. The biggest difference between the two is their AD carries. But Not Asleep, 6 kills. For FMW, just a single one. Their kills much more spread out across the whole squad. Surely means this Jinx is going to be much more influential than the Aphelios, at least in the short term.
One of the advantages FMW has is that the Jinx doesn't went for Kraken Slayer on first or second buy, I should say, and didn't go for Berserker's Graveset. No basic boots either, meaning that she won't be as fast. Now, that being said, as soon as her passive activates, we're in a whole different area. So FMW, they need to recognize it and they need to use that to their advantage.
A much more conservative option for Accept Pain, going for the shield bow there. We have seen they've gone 1 versus many with Not Asleep already. We know how effective this Aphelios is if he's got the right items and the right circumstances. For FMW, this is still a very even game. The Rocket doesn't do a ton. Nice encore. There's the combo. Crowd control. And Not Asleep get ripped up. Gonna lose Among Us as well. This Cassiopeia is going off.
Ooh, 2 little mistakes here from Not Asleep. I would say the first one is when a lot of those ultimates went wide and whiffed. I would say Not Asleep said, oh, we don't really have the tools anymore to do with this. And then they were like, are we going to engage? Are we not going to engage? Just like FMW is in this particular spot.
Cassiopeia getting 1 more kill before dropping. As it's going to be reset city. Second tower falls. Not Asleep have got no towers of their own so far. This is an astonishing showing from FMW. Bear in mind, again, they're down 1 game in this best of 3 series. This is a must-win map.
So, let me first reiterate what I was trying to do. So, Not Asleep, they kind of buffled up their ultimates. Sorry, that is not an English word, but they actually whiffed most of their ultimates. Then FMW connected theirs and went in. Not Asleep, they do not have this damage output yet. Also, Aphelios had the correct guns, meaning that, hey, you have the blue, you have the white gun, you just have a way too much damage output. And Not Asleep, if you cannot get on the Aphelios, you are not winning that team fight. They need to find a way to deal with it. They need to find a way to know, yes, FMW, they have the Cassiopeia, they have the Seraphine, and they have the Aurelia, but your prime target is still the Aphelios. But how are they ever going to reach him?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as you said before, we've got Steadfast Presence being brought in there as a defensive measure. Encore being burnt immediately. Not Asleep showing how effective that Pillar of Ice is at forcing out a reaction from FMW and burning a lot of their long cooldown defensive abilities.
One of the problems Not Asleep has is, how are you going to engage? Your main engage tool is Camille, which is okay, not the greatest, but okay. Against the Poppy, that's a stat presence. Okay, let's remove that as well. That's not an engage tool anymore. Then you have the Trundle with a pillar. Amazing, fantastic ability. Doesn't do hold too well when you have to literally physically run at them. Through a Cassiopeia, through potentially an Aurelia, through potentially a Seraphine. So not asleep, they have drafted themselves in a safe composition. However, with not really a win condition, which is worrying.
Flash forward from Despot there. They're going to be dancing through, not asleep. Hextech Ultimatum does come out and Despot is going to get dropped. You can see FMW are generally better defensively than they are offensively. As there's a catch on the Cassiopeia and she gets deleted. This is not the fight FMW wanted at all. Drax is gone as well. Not asleep. They've got a chance to get back into the game here as they manage to take out the Seraphim as well. Except Payne is the last one standing. They have got a good trading power, but I don't think they're going to get anything. And that leaves all 5 members of Not Asleep alive to equalize these towers.
FMW made a crucial mistake here, thinking they needed to engage, which was not the case. You saw Despot flashing in there, ulting, and he thought, okay, we need to get this. No, they didn't, and now you've given Not Asleep so much wiggle room to work with. They might actually take down this inhibitor, and this Jinx has just got a whole lot more fat.
I absolutely agree. It does feel like it's a big mistake, and that's not something you can afford to do against a team as storied as Not Asleep. FMW, they're going to lose their primary carry and their inhibitor as well. The death time is pre-10 minutes are not long. Among Us does get deleted, except Payne going to pick up, I think, a double kill there. They're going to go off in their own base. The shutdown onto the Seraphine as L9 Aram says, you can't kill me. I'm going to go hide on your fountain instead.
The fact that Not Asleep was still able to get 2 kills when they themselves were going for those resets is massive, because it gives FMW, as you see, it doesn't give them the time to aggressively push into this base. You have 9 seconds on L9 ARAM, and I don't even think they're going to lose an inhib. They might, but Not Asleep now coming back with an equal amount of gold, and with the Jinx that is fed. FMW needs to look out, because it is definitely one death, and that can lose the next team fight, which will lose you this final.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see FMW just trying to go back to more of a reactive style, that miasma, that steadfast presence. You know, slow and steady seems to be the approach which was working for FMW. Exactly as you said, when they were the ones trying to force the play, it does not go well for them. They have got a 7-kill Cassiopeia. They need to keep her safe.
I think Not Asleep is trying to actually stack a wave here and slow push into FMW so they can overrun them with the amount of minions. Good thinking by them. However, they are hard shoving in now. They will get to... Ooh, no, they will only get 1 super minion. Either that or the minimap isn't displaying correctly.
Okay, yeah, no, that's something which we get to see from some of these more experienced ARM teams, is they're actually using the wave control. Nice shockwave brings 2, causes them to burn flashes. FMW in a little bit of a dicey position here as the engage happens once again. There is the petrifying gaze. They need to make this fight work. We do have the kill coming back in for Accept Pain as Despot goes forward and dies. Mirai, though, is so strong. Double kill in for the Oriana. This could be it.
That's final.
Here, the Trovo Titans breaking beta. FMW, they've been broken themselves, Not Asleep. They needed only the smallest window of opportunity, and they have slammed it open. FMW looks so much better in Game 2, but Not Asleep remain undefeated. Incredible stuff from them.
Once again, Not Asleep showing that they are the masters in this particular game, that they are the masters at the Trovo Titans, that they can stand as Titans, and calling themselves the winners here, picking up that 1,800 euros and some extra goodies from Trovo Titans. I mean, Not Asleep, you can just see it in their playstyle. It is that little bit more cleaner. It is that little bit more focused. It is that little bit more well coordinated than their opponents every single time, and it really shows.
I have to wonder what a Game 3 would have looked like here, because FMW looks so much better in Game number 2 than it looked in Game number 1. I feel like maybe just a couple of missteps send them out. I really liked the team composition there. I felt they were able to match Not Asleep blow for blow. But unfortunately, as we saw, all it takes is 1 or 2 small mistakes and it can all come crashing down.
And I do believe we have an interview with Not Asleep coming in pretty soon. So that's interesting, because I imagine, just as like myself, our audience has a few questions for her. Hey, Alan Aram, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you very much for inviting me here.
So I should be thanking me.
Things.
Go on,
well, yeah, I mean, you earned your access here. I was kind of curious about you guys' team. So, Not Asleep, you guys seem to have played an absolute ton of Howling Abyss tournaments. What is it you guys are finding so appealing about playing that specifically?
I think we know a lot the game mode. That's very important to know the game mode and the meta and the builds. But we have a really good synergy as a team as well, and that's really helped us a lot in tournaments. I mean, we played for like 6 years as a team. That's a lot.
It does feel that you guys are better when it comes to coordinating, when it comes to teamwork, when it comes to actually knowing what's happening. As you said, the meta. Do you guys actually practice this a lot? Because you're just, every time I look at you play, it's just faster and there's no thinking time. You just do, you don't think.
I mean, whenever we see opportunities, we abuse them. But we have one shot caller, and that's the AP1, the mage player. And he tells us like what we're supposed to do, when to engage, disengage, and whatsoever. And we just listen to him because he's like the fast responding player, let's say. And we have a lot of experience. We played on NA as well, and literally we didn't get to play to Korea yet, but we wish we could.
Well, you said you guys have been together for 6 years. That's a long time for any team. How did you guys first come together as a squad?
There were some tournaments on a platform called Battle5. And you could play either as a team or as a free agent. And from free agents, we like gather 1-to-1 because we liked each other play style, and we formed a team. And since then, we started to play.
So it's the good old ragtag bunch of people who came together and became the underdog team that is now unstoppable. I like that storyline.
I mean, we're all from different countries. We don't know each other. So we just came together along.
And that's amazing that you guys are so dominant. As I guess it's a little unfair to say you're a pickup group now 6 years down the line. I mean, I guess looking forward from this event, you've got the first place prize at 1,800 euros. Are you guys going to keep on just trying to dominate the Howling Abyss field? Do you have any other plans for the squad as a whole?
I mean, whenever we see a tournament on Howling Abyss, we just register, and that's it. We don't really like Summoner's Rift. It's not our playstyle.
Fair enough. Definitely. I mean, I've never seen that, but the fact that there is a scene for Howling Abyss League is baffling to me, but amazing at the same time. We are going to say goodbye to Alan Aaron. We wish you the best of luck. Add to your team in further endeavors, especially on Howling Abyss. And once again, congratulations on winning.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I mean, we had a lot of fun. Thank you very much for hosting tournaments as well. And thanks for inviting. See ya, guys.
Oh, thank you, Alan Aram. I'm sure we'll see a ton more of you guys. Let's go and take a look back at the bracket there and see how this whole thing played out. This was kind of a little bit as we expected. It's lovely to hear a little bit about Not Asleep as a team. It's amazing that they were just a pickup group that came together, have played together for 6 years, and are dominating purely on Howling Abyss. They are setting the bar for other teams to follow. FMW, though, in Game 2, they got pretty darn close.
They got close, but I mean, it's the same old broken record, Zav, but it remains true. Not Asleep is just better at what they're doing. You can see that, as Alan Aram just said, it favors us more, the chaos that is the Howling Abyss. And let's take a look at the final results here as well, and how that massive cash pool is divided.
Those 5,000 euros, payouts all the way down to 16th place. But that last series was for a difference of 1,000 euros. So Not Asleep will continue to dominate here on Howling Abyss. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense. If you can be the best team on the Howling Abyss, why would you ever do anything else when you've got such great payouts, especially here in the Smashing Beta competition? You know, I hope the fact that we've got teams like this coming in here, proving that you can specialize in one game mode. You know, I hope it inspires future teams to come on and continue to get even stronger. But for now, though, Not Asleep will remain at the very top of the heap. So coming up next, we will have Brawl Stars. So we're taking a short break before we come back with that. We're not even half done with what we're going to be showing you here today. So stick around and we'll see you after the break.
Let's go. Let's go. MGC moments, baby.
Oh my god!
Everybody in his power bank is with $1,000 of money. So